Hello everybody, my name is Chelsea Callahan and welcome back to my channel. If you have been following along with my channel, you know that last week I just moved into my very own studio apartment in New York City, which I never thought would happen. I wouldn't have been able to do it if it weren't for the pandemic. It's really sad for multiple reasons on many levels. But here I am in my own place filming my first video in my new apartment. I was able to find this apartment pretty easy, and I'm gonna share with you all of my secrets, all of my tips on not only how to find a really good place, but how to avoid scams along the way. These are also tips on how to actually get the apartment that you apply for. So I'm gonna be addressing the entire process. Great, let's get into it. So let's talk about searching for an apartment. Sometimes it's really hard to know where to look. I'm going the no broker route because, as we've established, I'm on a budget all the freaking time. The first resource I used was StreetEasy. This is actually my favorite one, and I believe it's the most popular way people find an apartment without a broker. It covers all the boroughs, and you can enter as many specifics as you want on exactly what you're looking for. It not only has rentals, but it also has sales. If you're looking to buy property, then you can search like per location. You can search if you want like a washer dryer in a unit. You can search by price. But my favorite part is that you're able to save your searches, which means you don't have to re-input all that information every single time, and it will email you, I think every day. I think I get an email from StreetEasy every day still. I haven't turned it off yet. So based on the search that you save, it will notify you right when something's posted, which is actually how I was able to get my apartment, because I was near first in line, and I couldn't have known if I wasn't notified really early on. Sometimes you see the perfect apartment and it's just too late. So you want to be first. So that's the best tip I have for you, is to save that search so that you are notified, and so you don't have to keep refreshing the page every 5 seconds, because I know not a lot of us have all the time in the world to do that. Similar to StreetEasy is apartments.com and Zillow. The more places you're searching, obviously, the more apartments you will be able to find. I also included Craigslist in my search, but in New York, I found it's a little bit more sketch to search on Craigslist. There's just a ton more scams, but there are hidden gems in Craigslist, so don't eliminate this platform from your search. There's a lot of landlords out there that are posting because they don't want to get brokers for it, and that gives you an opportunity to, one, not have to pay a broker fee, but two, to get the idea on the person that you'll ultimately have to be working with. I personally like it when landlords advertise their own space. They genuinely know more about the space that you'll be living in. Keep an eye out on Craigslist for those gems. I've seen a few. The last platform that I use, it's called the Listing Project, and it's this email list that you get sent every Wednesday on people who are either searching for an apartment and they're putting out ads for themselves on what they're looking for, or it's people advertising a space. I like this because there's not as many scams. However, it was too expensive for me. I didn't see anything within my budget. Sign up for the newsletter for the Listing Project. Check out what it has to offer. It's just another resource that's slightly different than the other resources. So as we've discussed, it is important to get your foot in that door as soon as possible. The best way to do that is to be as aggressive as possible. Brokers here are really, really aggressive. Even landlords, really, really aggressive. So you've got to be aggressive too in your search. You're gonna find a phone number for either a landlord or broker, whoever's advertising the apartment, and you call them. You don't text them, you don't email them, you call them. You leave a voicemail with your contact information. One, that shows that you're actually interested and you're being really proactive about your search. Second, if I were a broker, I would call that person back because I get the impression that they're really serious and they don't want to waste my time. That's some of the best advice I have for you, is to be aggressive. Apartment prices are dropping. I think the apartment that I have right now, it was $300 to $400 more than I'm paying now, which is a pretty huge price reduction. Again, it's the only way I could afford it. And this is for a studio. It's higher in demand than like 2 or 3 bedrooms, simply just because of COVID and people wanting to live by themselves. But if you are looking for a 2+ bedroom and you actually have roommates and that's what you want to do, this is a great time to move to New York City. I'll go into more of the deals later because that can be a red flag. But the one deal that I really like, and I actually took advantage of myself, was a no-fee apartment. Right now there are a lot of offers for no-fee apartments. You do not need a broker to get an apartment right now in New York City, at least. I did not have to pay a broker fee, even though I did go through a broker, because my landlord ended up paying that fee, which I think was extremely lucky. But it's at least nice to know that it does exist, that you don't always have to pay that exorbitant broker fee, which is always in the thousands of dollars. So when you're searching for an apartment on those websites, consider the cost of living of the neighborhood that you are looking to live in, in. I almost got an apartment in the Upper East Side, and then I realized that I couldn't actually afford cost of living for that neighborhood. The rent was affordable, but I couldn't pay $8 for a cappuccino down the street. I couldn't afford to shop at Whole Foods, which was the local grocery store, which plays a huge part into your budget. Cost of living does add up, because even though you got a deal in that neighborhood, you'll just end up paying the same amount in cost of living for that neighborhood. I would be remiss to not talk about scams. Scams when you are searching for an apartment are everywhere, and they've always been in New York, but I feel they are more prominent now than before. A good rule of thumb is that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, and do not go for it. Landlords right now are money hungry, and they're gonna find any little thing in your apartment that looks even a little bit off, even if it wasn't your fault. They're gonna use that to take your deposit away. I'm not trying to be alarmist to scare you or anything, but just be aware that it's happening, and do an extra good job at cleaning your apartment before you go. And take pictures of everything in your empty apartment, the day or the week that you move in, so it has that day and time stamp, so that you can prove to the landlord when you move out that what they are seeing or trying to charge you for wasn't actually you. I think I took over 50 pictures. I'm not trying to say that all landlords are scumbags or greedy, but I'm just gonna consider all of them as such, so that way I don't screw myself over. Landlords and supers are not here to give you any break at all during this pandemic, which is really sad. There are no breaks on credit. There's no forgiveness if you are unemployed because of COVID. If you don't have a great credit score, if you don't have a job, even though you had like the same job for 20 years and got laid off because of COVID, they don't care. If you do not have a job, if your credit is bad, you will need a guarantor, which is not the worst thing, but you will need a guarantor. So this next scam, it's unfortunately huge, and it is everywhere, and it doesn't seem like a scam, and a lot of people don't realize it's a scam, but it is a scam. There are deals everywhere. You get a deal, and you get a deal, and you get a deal. 2 months off your rent, 4 months off your rent, 6 months off your rent. That's insane to just offer that much free rent. Some landlords are advertising net rent only and not gross rent. Say you got an apartment with a deal that gives you 2 months free. You're actually going to be paying every month a lower amount to that net price. They're advertising for the net rent and not the gross rent. So when your lease is up, they're gonna jack that price back up. If you are not prepared to pay the gross rent for that apartment, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. We don't know what's gonna happen with the New York housing market, but make sure the gross rent is something that you can afford if you wanna take some of these deals, unless you wanna have to worry about potentially moving again because you can't afford a place. With the way that it's going, landlords are expecting New York to be back, whatever that means, by the end of 2021, which is when a lot of leases will be ending from the deals that they're giving now. So just watch out for that. Always prepare with more money and look for a place without those deals. That is a long-term way for the landlords to squeeze that extra money out of you. Just be aware. Another subtle scam is landlords are reposting apartments that are not getting rented quick enough. When I'm looking at an ad for an apartment, I do take into consideration how long this apartment has been on the market. If it's been on the market for like 14 or 28 days, I'm gonna assume there's a reason why it has not been rented yet, because it's New York City. There's gotta be something wrong. I'm seeing landlords and brokers reposting ads of the same place with a price drop, not only to hide the fact that they are having a hard time renting it, but also they don't want you to see in the price history that the price has been lowered, because they don't want you to know that they're struggling, so that you won't negotiate a lower rent. I mean, I don't know if I need to even say this, it's just so obvious, but if people are asking for money before you've even seen the apartment, it's a scam. I have to share with you an experience I had replying to a Craigslist ad for a too good to be true apartment. Found it. So check out this email. I messaged a guy back about an apartment. I saw his Craigslist ad for an Upper West Side studio for $18.50 a month, which is really, really cheap. It's too good to be true. I asked if it's still available, if I can schedule a viewing. Look at this whole storybook that he sent me. He's like, thanks for your interest in the apartment, and I'm glad to hear from you. Totally normal. I resided in the house with my wife before we moved and relocated to Florida for my missionary work. Why do I need to know this? My wife and I left New York City with the intention of moving back in 3 months, but right now the church has asked that we stay for 5 years. For this reason, I decided to put up my apartment for rent, whatever. So they had some unfortunate events in the past, which is leading to them needing money from me immediately because they got scammed by someone who backed off, didn't give them any money. Really weird. I have not given any information except my phone number, my name, and a couple questions which he has not answered. So clearly this is a copy paste. this is not the first time that I've seen a sob story about a missionary needing to be out of New York City for 5 years. Those details exactly. So those are the scams that I'm seeing right now. So moving into viewing. What are my best tips for when you are viewing an apartment? The first thing is to know what you're looking for ahead of time so you don't waste your time and so you don't waste the broker's time, especially if they're offering an in-person viewing during COVID, because a lot of people are not even offering that. It's only a 3D tour or like a FaceTime viewing. So if the person is allowing you to go view the space in person, know that the time spent in the viewing will be very short, and don't go viewing a place if you know that you are not actually going to apply. So keep in your iPhone a list of questions that you would ask when you go view an apartment. In the moment, I can get too excited or too frazzled or too distracted that I forget to ask questions that later I'm like, So this is an example of a list that I have on my phone of questions that I ask during an apartment viewing. Double checking the full move-in fees, if there's a history of bugs in the apartment, if there's laundry in the building, if you have mailboxes, how you deal with garbage, double checking the utilities that the landlord pays for and the ones that you need to set up upon move-in, what transportation is nearby, and if they have an option for parking, if they allow pets in the building, and if so, is there a pet deposit? And if you are able to do an in-person tour, this is a little tip that I always do, is turn the shower on and see how quickly it goes to hot water. Check for that water pressure. Same with the sinks. Pay attention to the cleanliness of the lobby and the cleanliness of the stairwells. I have a million locks on my door, and I made sure to notice that when I was touring this unit. When you're in an apartment, listen to your gut about how safe you feel. Unfortunately, this is not something you can do over a virtual tour. If you took public transportation to your apartment viewing, did you feel safe walking from the subway or bus to the door of your apartment? Safety is a huge thing, especially if you're going to be living by yourself. Another thing is to take a video. Sometimes there are little things that I don't notice when I'm actually in the unit, like what color are the cabinets? What color are the floors? Did the floors squeak? Things that can be caught on tape that you can go back and refer to, especially if you're viewing multiple apartments at the same time. It's hard to remember what one was which. I know right now it's probably not ideal, but if you can, take a friend with you to your apartment viewings. Sometimes they notice something in the apartment that you don't, and it's just always good to have a second set of eyes. Just make sure that the person giving you the tour knows and that they're okay with it and that you social distance and that you wear masks. But as always, tour in whatever way makes you feel most comfortable. If a virtual tour is what you're comfortable with, by all means do it. There is that option. And as a segue into our next section, always be ready to apply on the spot. If you walk into an apartment and you're like, I can see it here. Apply. When you are applying for a place, this goes with not wasting anyone's time. If you have a guarantor, especially if you have a guarantor, do not view an apartment until they have all of their documents together. You never really know what the required documents will be. They change per building, but in general, it's just good for them to gather, or you, if you're employed, a letter of employment, tax returns from the last couple years, recent bank statements, recent pay stubs, a copy of your ID, and any references like building or job references they might have. If you have a guarantor, it can be a little bit trickier because you're dealing with timing. Sometimes it's a game of luck, but have all that information before you even see an apartment. It goes along with having all your documents organized and ready to apply. Make sure you have the money ready to drop the deposit in the first month and know how you can do that quickly. They're not going to take your apartment off the market until they receive a payment from you. To protect yourself, just keep all the receipts, know what company you're working with, research the building, keep voicemails, emails, just keep it all as a record, just to protect yourself. I mean, this video honestly felt really anxious, and I just get anxious thinking about it because it was a really stressful process. When it's over, it's done, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Then you can really start being excited about it, planning, where your furniture is gonna go. You did all that hard work, now you get to reap those benefits. I hope this video helped at least one of you to get your own place or whatever you're looking for. Feel free to share this video, and if you have not subscribed, make sure to do that. Like the video and ring that notification bell so that you will not miss another upload. I have an apartment tour coming soon. I have a morning routine coming soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.